Okay, we are live. Welcome everyone to, I don't know what number of No Peasants this is, but I believe you guys are candidate 29 and 30. And I just want to say, when I started this, I kind of said, this is a kind of a cross between a show and a meeting. And that really is what it is. And I always make sure to get, good clips of you guys and put it out on social media so that people that wouldn't sit through long meetings about, ballot access and all of that, can see what you stand for. But I just wanted to say that because I want to open up with this clip, and it's from Candidates for Assange. And Michael, I don't believe you were on this one, and it's really brief. And this is a Libertarian candidate, Rebecca Whiting, who was in, I believe in Wisconsin. But okay, so we'll start with that.
I realize that this comes down to being just a First Amendment violation. Like, if you don't have access to be able to vote your conscience and to vote for who you want to be able to, because the two major parties have put so many barriers and so many challenges for people to be able to get onto the ballot, then you can't exercise your basic First Amendment principle just by simply casting a ballot, because they're keeping people off the ballot with their arbitrary rules.
So why don't we get started, and we will, Adam, I'll go to you first and let you introduce yourself, and then you could speak on that very topic if you like.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Kelly. I appreciate the work that you do to spotlight independent and third-party candidates. It's the work that we really need. My name's Adam Rueda. I'm running as an independent in the race for New Jersey 5 to unseat 10-year incumbent Josh Gottheimer. Represents Northwest New Jersey, right on the border up to George Washington Bridge. Borders New York City, Sussex, Passaic, and Bergen County. But I'm running as a human rights candidate that's super focused on abolishing ICE and upholding the human rights and dignity of everyone that lives in America and in any conflict that we're involved with abroad. I'm for free speech. I'm for anti-corruption in our Congress. I've taken the commitment personally to not own stocks or crypto while I serve in office, so I won't have that financial burden and bias when writing and voting on legislation. I'm also for Medicare for all, more safety nets and social services for people. And I'm a candidate that recognizes the climate emergency as well. I think we need to do much more on that front to move away from fossil fuels and emissions. But yeah, there's not a lot of candidates participating in the race for New Jersey 5. It's just really the three of us. There's a Republican candidate that is not being very aggressive in his campaigning and marketing and messaging as well. So it's really me just trying to ask the right questions and force the dialogue and force the envelope against Josh Gottheimer, who I believe is in the favor of both parties. Democrat leadership, I think, favors Gottheimer. He's a key connector to Microsoft, Palantir, and some of his bosses internationally. And then he votes against impeaching Trump. He votes against curtailing Trump's war powers. He recently voted with Trump and Republicans on approving FISA, warrantless surveillance on Americans. So he's one of the most conservative Democrats in Congress. Super interesting how it really is a top versus bottom race here in New Jersey 5, but just doing my best to, push the envelope and
nice
the hot seat a little bit. Yeah.
Nice. Kicking some ass. Hey, wait a second. If you're not going to take any crypto, how are you going to get like your Trump meme coin and fit in with all the money that all those crypto bros are making in Congress?
Yeah, we got to do a lot less of that, unfortunately. Yeah, I mean, it's been insane corruption in this administration, unfortunately, with the crypto coins and the selling of insider information. So that's all a big part of my messaging. We got to move away from that stuff. The $170,000 salary, would be more than I've ever made. So I'm just kind of focusing on that as what I'm going to make as a congressman, and just kind of try and represent the people of New Jersey 5 as much as possible.
Excellent. I'm so glad you brought up the FISA, because we talk about that a lot. It came up, those issues came up during Candidates for Assange as well. Yep. And we have to acknowledge that both parties, have implemented the surveillance state for decades.
So, yeah, absolutely. There's always the Democrats to get these kind of government overreaches over the finish line. So I'm in the position that we need a new voting bloc in Congress. We need a third party or a bloc of independents that can kind of break the gridlock and vote with critical thinking and objective thinking at front of mind, and not be voting on partisan lines.
I was going to say, Kelly, both parties that brought in the surveillance and the totalitarian state, it's kind of funny that it's the Republican Party that ushered in the Patriot Act, the war on terror, the military police state in 2008. And then it seems like Trump, in a way, is just capping it off right now. And so it's like the biggest people that are against, supposedly, the Republican base, against totalitarian government, they're the ones getting bamboozled by their politicians. I think similar to the way the Democrats get bamboozled by the Democrats on like universal health care and shutting down Occupy Wall Street and the anti-war movement and stuff like that. They kind of get taken. I just want to point that out, though.
Right, exactly. And we asked an independent that was on recently, Jay Bowman in Kentucky's 6th, I believe, and he's a former Republican. And I was like, how do you explain all these Republicans being for Big Brother? And he didn't really have an answer. He said they feel like it's just necessary. I don't know. But let's go to Rustin. Do you want to introduce yourself? It's nice to meet you. I know you've been in our chat a lot, watching our panels. And Rustin, I know, is part of the Independent Candidate Network. Nice to meet you. Oh, you're muted. Oh, there you go.
Yep. I'm Rustin Provance. I'm running for 3rd Congressional District of Wisconsin. I'm not taking donations, which is a rarity for candidates to do. I think the job should be a job of servitude. Not a job of, sorry, my dogs are going nuts right now. It should be a job of servitude. I think a lot of what's going on is all done for profit. It's kind of like the signature process. We really don't need the voters' signatures. It makes no sense to really do, because we need their vote, not their signature. Getting on a ballot is just a trophy, everybody wins trophy. If you get on the ballot, the media pays attention to you. That's the only difference. It's messed up. A lot of people don't realize retirement's about to end pretty soon. That also equals out for Title 4D. So well, sorry, I got to deal with it.
That's okay. I will just say, I think that that for the general public, if you're they don't consider you a real candidate. If you're just a write-in or something. But it is such a hurdle, and it's too bad that Phil isn't here, because he always has good stuff to add on this. But you can too as well, Michael. Is just that hurdle to get on the ballot in the first place is all part of how our elections, when people say our elections are rigged, that doesn't always mean something about the machines and that they're hacked. But the whole process is set up to keep you guys out.
If you didn't have all these signatures that people had to get, then you would just have 100 people on the ballot, and you can't have that, Kelly. You can't have more choices. So we can't have that in democracy.
I think it's a fine line, because you want to, like you said, I mean, you don't want to have unlimited candidates, but it's a fine line between making it attainable for people. I've gotten all my signatures by myself. The requirement, I know, differs from state to state, but here we have a relatively lower requirement of 250 signatures to get on the general ballot as an independent. That's up from just last year. It was raised from 200. And there wasn't a lot of news and reporting about that kind of ballot requirement being raised in the shadows. But I know a lot of other states have much higher requirements, up to even like 2,000 or 2,500 signatures needed. And can even be.
I turned in 4,500 here in Ohio in 2024.
Yeah, that's crazy. And
it was 2,900
financial burden. So yeah, that's a key way where they kind of strangle the bottleneck to this process, and keep it the duopoly rule as much as they can. But I feel like we're in the last few years of having any chance of getting independents that are competitive. So I kind of have that in mind when I'm doing it here in 2026, that, these requirements could be doubled or tripled, really any time. So,
well, they keep moving the goalposts, is what I've seen. But
at the same time, you get challenged. So even if you get your signatures and you do everything, you get them up there, a lot of people don't realize it's the Republican and Democrat members that are challenging your signatures. That's who the commissions are. Yeah. A lot of the commissions are registered members of both sides. Well, then you get their lawyers to come in and challenge your signatures based off what the board's deciding. Well, if the board's Republican, Democrat, and the lawyers coming in or challengers are representatives of the Republican Democrat Party, that's a major conflict of interest.
I had to go and look it up, because I was questioning my memory here on these numbers. But it's right. It's on Ballot Access News. I think we all need to be meeting with Diane Sayre, who's independent, running for president. She had to get, let's see, she submitted 70,000 signatures to meet the requirement of 45,000, but she ran for Senate in New York, which is just amazing. And I don't want to, I think maybe I'll ask her to come on and talk about it, because I think I remember the story correctly of how she did it, but it wasn't the standard way. And I just put up a clip from last week of two guys, John Glowa, independent in Maine, and Cloud Walton, independent in New York, like Rochester area. And they were talking about the ballot access stuff. And John Glowa is 72 years old, and he found out he'd been walking around with a broken foot for 2 months trying to get signatures. And he had paid someone like $10,000. And it sounds like it's kind of a racket. The whole, like, it's like an industry.
It is.
So I should talk to Diane again and see, like, I remember correctly her story, how she did it. And she has also had those experiences where people will come to her and say, you know, because it's a business now to
it is
signatures. Michael, you know, what did you?
I participate in it. Yeah. No, I have people in. I know I have a buddy in Jersey right now getting signatures for the Green Party. Yeah, no, it's a business, and we've run into some shady characters. You know, these companies and stuff like that. You're doing contracts. Think famously the Kennedy campaign, when he was still in the race running as an independent for president, he got like scammed in the state of New York. His campaign, he had some Google person running as his vice president. They had tons of money. They were paying $7 for like a unverified signature. So like literally just a signature off the street, a scribble on a piece of paper. They're paying $7 for. And what happened was this company committed this is the scam. I think they've done it in North Carolina too. These companies, not all of them, okay, not all of them, but I'm saying ones that, okay, so here's part of the scam, or some of the political games that go on. Like if you're aligned with Democrats, or if you're aligned with Republicans, some of these firms, they didn't like Kennedy, and so they promised to get, and they'll do this for Green Party candidates too, they'll promise to get you signatures, and then, oh, whoops, sorry, we couldn't fulfill the contract, or, oh, we messed up, or, oh, man, gee golly, only 30% of our signatures got accepted. And so there's a little chicanery there, but anyway, with lots of money, and it's a shady little business.
So I've been thinking about this ever since I made that clip from last week, is that I think we really need to join forces. I mean, it's now no longer a secret. Candidates, I hear it all the time now. Well, you know, they'll throw out like a third or whatever.
50%.
50?
That's standard.
Okay.
That's standard.
Okay. Well,
if you're really good, they'll only throw out a third. And Diane Sayers, to be honest, if she turned in 70,000 and got 45,000 approved, I was just doing the mental math in my head. She got about like 65% approval. Like that's insane. That's insane.
I'm going to get
over that large of a number.
Yeah,
that's really good.
It is good.
Really good. That's impressive.
It's amazing, and I think her strategy was better than I've ever heard. But
okay,
I will get into this more later when I'm doing an election series about some other stuff that happened in North Carolina. But I want to play because I've been thinking, okay, this is industry. Like they're getting people, they're paying people, they're bad actors come out that work against candidates trying to collect signatures.
Sometimes, yeah.
Some, okay, maybe not all, but some.
Yeah.
And Matt Ho isn't here, but I'm going to play this clip because it is about something that happened here when he ran, just a second, when he ran as a Green in North Carolina, and there was some really shady stuff that went on. So what I'm about to show you is something that was orchestrated by Mark Elias. He is a Democrat lawyer. You may know if people read Democracy Counts, that's his media outlet. But he's extremely shady, and this is what he did in North Carolina. And someone actually filmed it, which was great because this person came to their house. But watch this.
Advantage to Democrats and it would be an advantage to Republicans. So we're asking people if they're interested in removing their name from the petition.
Okay, so you're from
North Carolina Democrats.
You're from North Carolina Democrats, correct? Yeah. And you used the public information based on the petition that I signed, correct? For getting the Green Party candidate onto the ballot, correct?
Well, that's the petition that you signed.
Correct. Yeah. I'm fully aware of that.
Yeah, so we're just asking people if they were interested in removing their name from the petition. Like, some people signed it and didn't know they were being misled. Some people didn't even sign it, but their signature was on there. So that they're investigating that too.
Yeah, I get it. You have to audit the petition, correct? Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure how that works. Like, they just contracted me to go around and ask people.
Okay. About if I wanted to take my name off of the list.
Correct.
And that's because, like, I'm not following. I mean, I signed it because I wanted the Green Party to be on the ballot.
Right. So we're letting people know that it would be a disadvantage for Democrats and an advantage for Republicans. Right.
You guys should move further left, and then that wouldn't happen.
Okay.
So it's like, I want a third party on the ballot. I want ranked choice voting so we have a viable third party candidate.
Of course.
And if the Democrats are concerned about that, then they should probably change their politics a bit, as opposed to coming to my house and trying to get me to get my name off a petition.
Right.
So, I mean, this is a lot. I mean, I knew you guys were coming because other people that I know have signed that petition have said they're coming for you. So this tactic, I don't agree with it. I understand why you're doing it. Politically, I understand why you're doing it. It's dirty pool. I don't like it. But honestly, it's, and I understand legally you can do this. But from a political standpoint, I don't agree with it.
Okay.
And I understand I can remove my name from that list, but I don't choose to.
Okay, and that's completely fine.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's completely fine.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, well, I appreciate your time.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm sorry about it.
You're very welcome. Have a great day.
So that just infuriates me. But
she was very polite.
What state was that?
North Carolina.
That's insane.
So I just think that the more that you guys are aware as candidates that all of this stuff is happening, you can get ahead of it, right?
Yeah, I tried to get as many over as possible. I mean, I almost have like 500. So if you're saying 50% is the average,
you're good.
I'm going to make sure to, get right around 500, keep collecting until next week.
Doesn't hurt, but yeah.
But like sending people door to door to harass people to ask them to take their name off.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is.
It doesn't surprise me because the beginning of our signature process in my area, the Democrats and Republicans in the first 3 days of signatures stopped at my house. And the interns stopped in, not even the candidates. That's one thing I love about, nobody talks about. The Republicans and Democrats, they don't even go, the candidates themselves usually don't go out and get their signatures. It's all interns. Like the one intern I talked to, he said it was his requirement as part of his schooling to go out and get signatures in order to graduate his class.
Wow. Well, I have heard that, I think, I can't remember who, oh wait, maybe that was you in the chat last week. That's right. But couldn't that be a good thing for students to do that? To be involved?
I think it should be involved, but I don't think they should be used as a political tool. Like we sent them to school to go to school. When they're done with school, they want to deal with politics, go do it. You know what I mean? But trying to help a one demographic based off your education, that's not exactly okay. Like politics was, if we don't like it in our high schools and elementary schools and all that, why do we have it in our colleges?
So it was for a particular candidate? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, he was going around getting signatures for a particular candidate, and he said the reason he was doing it is because it's part of his college. Whether that's true or not, that's what he told me. So I was like, okay, so you have to do this. He's like, yeah, we got to get signatures, and blah, blah, blah. He goes, all us interns have to do it. All as part of our schooling for college.
Right. Okay, well.
And then I've ran into other people in Winona that are the college that's got the political class, but it's on the Minnesota side of the river. And they've told me the same thing. Like, yeah, it's part of their schooling. They're required to go out and get signatures.
Well, again, like I said at the opening here, I kind of hesitated to focus on this because this is kind of behind the scenes, like stuff candidates deal with. But I think it's important for the general public to understand like what you guys all go through. Like that if you're not involved in this, you might not know like what all is happening. So, but why don't we get into why people should vote for you guys? So we'll start. Let me pull this up as I've been doing. Whoever wants to go first, we'll take the first one. I assume you're against war. Whoever, Adam, I guess we'll start with you.
Yeah, so I'm against war. I am against endless wars. I believe that most of America is against endless wars, and that's why we voted for what was supposed to be the peace candidate this most recent presidential election. But unfortunately, that's not the policy that we got in practice. But I think that the sentiment of America is still the same, that we don't want to waste, all of this money and risk American lives overseas in these wars, especially in the Middle East, where human rights are really suffering and innocent civilians are really suffering. So it's definitely a key policy of mine. The current incumbent we have is super pro-war, super militarizing Israel at any cost, and unconditionally doing so. So,
I'll put up a good graphic of Gottheimer with his APAC stuff when I make your clip. So yes,
I can't stress enough the crucial piece that Gottheimer is in terms of militarizing Israel, of terms of enabling our government to work with Palantir and Microsoft on all kinds of militarization and surveillance schemes that they're practicing in Palestine. Honing in new technologies, wartime technologies. At the expense of innocent civilians, in Palestine. So it's just really horrific when you get into what's actually going on. And I'm a candidate that's for peace and for bringing our soldiers home.
Well, the good thing I didn't mention from the clip about going door to door getting signatures is that it does give you an opportunity to talk to people. So you've been doing that. Is the sentiment of people where you live pro-war, or are they against it? Because
I would say the vast majority feels very betrayed by this administration, even in some areas that are traditionally red leaning or definitely voted for Trump most recently. I think a lot of people are disillusioned with politics in general, and I do agree with what you said. It's been great to kind of connect with voters through doing this process. It's an easy thing to ask them that doesn't cost them anything and gets them talking about issues that are important to them or issues that they saw on the news or current events. So I've been trying to make the most of it in terms of, connecting with voters and seeing where their heads are at in terms of the federal and national politics when I'm getting their signatures. So to kind of inform my campaign and inform me as a representative of kind of, where people's heads are at in the district.
Hey, Adam, can I butt in? Like, man, what got into your head, man, that made you think, like, man, I got to get up off the sidelines as a young guy and, like, you know what, screw it. Like, I'm just going to run for office.
Yeah, man. I just thought, I just saw how badly things were going, and I well-educated. I went to a good school, and I had a lot of good ideas in my head. I feel like I was taught a lot of good stuff about climate change and human rights, and to come right into, the real world, so to speak, and just to see everything kind of burning down. I just felt like I had more to offer than working, as a salesperson or as a financial analyst. I felt like I really wanted to do something that mattered more. And secondly, I saw that there was a big gap in terms of our representative here in New Jersey 5. This is the district where I grew up in for the first 20 years of my life. This is where I had, my family home, where I grew up with my younger sister. And I saw a big gap, honestly, at this point, 10 years in service, Josh Gottheimer, from, the feelings and political opinions of the people that live here on the ground in New Jersey 5. So that combined, as well as kind of like a market opportunity of people are not being represented. There's too big of a gap here. So just thought it was a good opportunity, like I said, to start to, at least have the good dialogue and ask some of the harder questions, because it seems like no one was going to be asking them.
Let's burn it down.
Yeah, we got to try something, man. We got to try something for sure. And apathy and not voting and, cynicism.
Rustin, you got a match? I know you got a match. You might have a Zippo lighter.
Yeah, man. However we can do it, get to pull Gottheimer down to our level and get him to answer the questions of the everyday working class. answer for some of his policies and his voting record, which I think that he wasn't really expecting to have a rival or a challenger, in this record,
Blast him.
in this cycle. So I feel like I kind of caught him a little bit with his pants down, where he's making some really unpopular votes right now in terms of FISA, like we mentioned, and some other votes against impeaching Trump, against curtailing war powers. So
yes, there's a lot of grandstanding going on by Democrats as usual. But I remember when I first heard that, when we were right before we struck Iran, everyone in Congress, I mean, it was evident, all the military, everything was staged the day before. It was not a surprise. So what do they do? The Democrats go home, and then later they can act like, oh, we're not for this, but they didn't call for a vote. And it shouldn't have been any surprise what happened at 1 o'clock in the morning the next day. So.
Yeah, I mean, Gottheimer's trading Exxon stocks and options all through the, initial bombing of Iran, profiting off of the, higher oil prices, Exxon and Shell, higher profits, higher stock prices.
Kelly, I was going to say, Kelly, there's nothing like a president sitting at his country club, starting a war, World War III. There's just a nice ambiance. You're sitting at the club, you're sitting back, and you're just putting your finger on the button there. But hey, Rustin, man, you got a match or a Zippo, man? What do you think about this whole state of everything? And we trying to burn it down, or are we trying to what's your whole take on kind of where we're at?
Depends what war you're talking about, right? So you got your conventional war with military, and then you have your political psychological warfare. Like I try to point out to people that everything politics, their left and right do is all strategically planned in war. You have MK Ultra from the 1940s all the way up to Operation Paperclip, where they brought all these people over for all these programs. And you don't think when you talk about government, you talk about the Republican and Democratic Party. So when you talk about government going over and doing this, you're specifically talking about the Republican Democrat Party. They go so far down into this rabbit hole of psychological warfare that they pick music, because music determines your emotional state when you vote, or your flashing lights, everything to get your attention, just to keep you focused. I always thought it was funny that we spent so much money in politics when the only thing you're doing is admitting to people that you're here to invade their home, their personal space, their personal. If they wanted to learn about you, they'd do it themselves, but you think you have to spend a bunch of money to force your way into their home. And we talk about the Iran war, and it's funny we even talk about that war, because while we have a war going on in the American people here, we have a war going on overseas that we already tried to regime change once. And as a result, that son that we put in place after we killed his father, right, watched all this go down, while in the meantime, Iraq and Afghanistan were getting bombed and getting screwed up and messed with, when we're the ones that got killed Saddam Hussein to attack Iran, right? We got Saddam Hussein to attack, supported him and everything to try to attack Iran after they told him they couldn't do it. So we spent at least 3 or 4 decades fighting with these people, and these people had nothing to do but sit back and ready themselves for the next regime change. So you have a country that's based off the Persians, right? And if you learned anything about history, these people build nations and destroy governments, right? So you're gonna go pick a fight with them and wondering why you're not winning. Well, it's because they watched you destroy their nation before. All they've been doing is sit here going, we don't run our country, you run our country. You don't like who's in charge? We're just gonna take you out. So as a country, would we allow that? How would we feel about somebody just coming in from another country, taking out our president and going, hey, we don't like what he's doing, or he's actually giving stuff, the original guy, the father of the son we killed to do the regime change, wanted to give the oil away from the Britons and give it back to the people. And we killed him as a result of it.
Well, Rustin, that sounds like Iranian propaganda. What do you mean people wouldn't like it if somebody came in and drone striked and missile striked our entire top 5 levels of government? What are you talking about? That sounds like Iranian propaganda.
Right, it does. But it's also looking at things from a realistic perspective. We have to realize that there's a history America has, and ignoring it is why we keep failing.
I wasn't planning to do this, but I've got to find this clip now. Give me just a second. I just made it.
Yeah.
I think this is it. Hold on.
I was just kidding about the Iranian propaganda.
Right.
But,
I'm
it's the
glad
hypocrisy.
I'm
It's the
glad you
hypocrisy.
mentioned that because, I saw something. It's going to take me a minute to find this, but I wouldn't have noticed it because I am a former Bill Maher viewer. I can't even believe I used to watch that now. But
Yeah.
I happened to see a clip that he was like mocking MK Ultra as if, oh, it was just that thing back in the 60s. And I think that's something, we can see it if you're paying close enough attention that there still are absolutely those psychological operations done on the American public.
A lot of unsolved stuff still going on.
I mean, think about it, right? The human body, like everything, the CT scan, all that, right? In order for you to stop move for anything for them to do, they send a vibration into your body, right? And the vibration stops. Music is the same way. It goes through and it goes through people, right? And you can get people to vote a certain way because it plays off certain emotions. Like, let's say your mother died off this song, you'll always remember that song, right? But if like you play that song week after week after week after week with the same message, like the media does, and people have shown, it starts clicking, and you see that's now when you go to think
priming. You're
PDS,
priming
Trump
people.
derangement syndrome. Yeah, it's Trump. You're priming people is what you're doing, and people don't realize politics is exactly that. The two political party system. If you look at their whole process, the signature process, the whole thing, it's all priming. Otherwise, people wouldn't care.
Well, people are programmed to believe that third parties just don't have a chance, and there's no point, right?
Oh yeah.
But I found my clip, so and this
let's see it.
is about speaking of Iran. So here we go.
That came to New York to address the Security Council, and the reason was that the
British had
filed a complaint in the.
Sorry, just a second. I had the other one still up. Sorry about that.
That Mossadegh, by nationalizing the oil company that was owned by the British, had.
Sorry. Okay, I just wasn't prepared for this one. Okay, so this is Stephen Kinzer. If you know anything about, he's written many, many books. He's a regular on Randy Credico's Live on the Fly. He, in addition to John Pilger, is really kind of where I started to learn about all of, what we do around the globe. But anyway, here we go.
To New York to address the Security Council, and the reason was that the British had filed a complaint in the Security Council that Mossadegh, by nationalizing the oil company that was owned by the British, had stolen British property, and the Security Council was asked to direct Mossadegh to give it back to the British. And then he did something no one had expected, which was he actually flew from Tehran to New York, which was not so easy in the early 1950s. And when he got to the United Nations, he was the first leader ever to present the case of the developing world, of the poor countries, of the resource-producing countries on such a grand scale. This was before Castro, before Lumumba, before Sukarno. Nobody had ever heard this side of the story before. And his intervention at the Security Council was so powerful that for the first time in its history, the UN Security Council refused to pass a resolution that had been proposed by one of its permanent members, the British. So you're right, after that triumph, Mossadegh went to Washington, had a series of meetings with Truman and Truman's advisors. They tried to work out a compromise, but Mossadegh was insistent that the British would never come back to run that oil company. So what was Truman's response? He was frustrated. He didn't like what Mossadegh said and Mossadegh's refusal to compromise, but that was it. He just sent him home. Truman wasn't going to do anything about it.
Right.
He thought Mossadegh was making a mistake, but that's Mossadegh's problem. And when a proposition came from the CIA, specifically Allen Dulles, to launch an operation to overthrow Mossadegh, Truman absolutely vetoed it. Had we not had that transformation or the transition from Truman to Eisenhower, that coup might never have happened.
How much were they extracting, and how powerful was it? Was a BP and the MI6 was working with him? How much were they extracting? And he was a popular figure, Mossadegh, in Iran, right? It says so in your book. He was a very popular figure.
Was probably the most popular leader Iran ever had. And as for the operation of the British company, you have to understand that all the oil that Britain was running on came from Iran. So every factory in Britain was running on oil from Iran. Every truck was running on oil from Iran. The Royal Navy, which projected British power around the world, was fueled 100% by oil from Iran. Meanwhile, the Iranian people were living in some of the worst conditions of any people on earth. So it was natural, it was inevitable that if Iran became a democracy and was led by someone who had to respond to the popular will, the first thing that person would do was to try to resolve the great, overwhelming injustice of Iranian life, which was we're sitting on an ocean of oil, but only the British are profiting.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a great clip, Kelly.
That's from Randy's show. If you want to check it out, go to YouTube live on the
You on mute, Kelly?
No? That's odd. You can't hear me? Can you guys hear me? You can. We've had this happen a couple of times. Michael, it seems usually on, I'm wondering if it's your phone. You're on your phone, right? Oh, you can't hear me. Okay. We're gonna let's go to the second. Michael, yes, no, can't hear
Michael,
me?
it's you.
Yeah, that's a darn.
Well, I can't hear anything right now ever since you did that clip. Sorry to interrupt.
That's okay. We'll keep going, I guess. Sorry. Okay, let's do this. Why don't we
Have him log out and log back in.
Yeah, let me text him. I'll tell him to do it. He knows to do that, I think. Hold on. Why don't we, okay, while we're doing this, Adam, would you like to take the next one, freedom of speech? I have a feeling he's doing it. He knows what to do.
Okay. Yeah, I'm definitely for free speech. I think social media has been monopolized to be owned by just a handful of oligarchs, and I think it's a serious problem. I also think we need to fight for freedom of speech in terms of fighting for unbiased science, access to unbiased science and history. It's super alarming how genuine research regarding climate emergency is kind of drowned out to nothing in this country, and critical bedrock climate findings have kind of been ripped up during this administration. So we need to get back to some kind of categorization of how we can access unbiased science and not have it be so politicized, and get back to platforming our leading climate scientists, environmentalists, sustainability advocates, and get to some of these answers. All of these fossil fuel companies and their lobbying has really drowned out and muted and suppressed American innovation. And we need to do a lot more to get back to the innovation that has made this country so great and a world leader all these years. That was through, not politicizing science and not politicizing research and data. So we really have to fight for that as soon as Trump gets out of office, so we can get back on track in terms of the climate emergency, and do everything we can to make sure that the government is not handing down any mandates to social media companies to censor us in any way.
Right. Well, you kind of you hit on another item on the pledge, which is environmental issues. And the reason I did put it on there, but I specifically pointed out environmental issues for people that are like locally in their community, because I found that topic is sometimes really divisive until you start talking about things on that level. And Michael's heard all this before, but when I was interviewing candidates back in 2018, I was kind of shocked to hear, but almost every single candidate, every district had a story about some kind of, toxic waste dump or other.
Wow.
What do you think about that? I mean, Rustin, let me ask you this. You're in a more conservative district. So would you say that when you start talking about environmental issues, that's true if it's more, not in my backyard kind of issues? Or do you think that's changing on the people that are more right-leaning, caring about
it depends on how you present it, really. In all honesty, like, I lean more towards the conservative side. I'm not going to lie. I used to be a Republican for the longest time, got away from it. But a lot of it was just because a lot of things made sense, and what breaks that gray area is when you look at the homesteaders, right? You look at the homesteaders, they are conservative and Democrat. But the funny thing is, even if they're conservative, they still use green energy because they're trying to stay off big energy, right? They're farming their own vegetables. They're staying away from big pharma. They're doing all the things that what original conservatives were originally doing, trying to stay away from all the big corporations. So I don't know.
Yeah. I have noticed
freedom
that
is
shift. Maybe it's RFK Jr., but I have noticed that shift kind of on sort of.
Yeah, and a lot of it has to do with presentation, right? I used to do sales for a fireplace, and if you ever tried to sell fireplace to somebody, it's like pulling teeth, right? So you better be good at it, right? And I was really good at my job. But one
I'll sell you an ice cube for your fireplace. No.
Right? So the what you have to do is, it's not about telling conservatives all. One thing I've noticed the Democrats and the liberal side do is they come and attack the conservative side on all the things that go wrong, all the things we need to do, and they attack instead of educating. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Instead of going, hey, you know what? We could sit here and put the power bill in and put solars on your roof. And now all this terrorist talk about how they're going to attack the grid and they're going to do all this stuff. All of a sudden, now you're no longer a problem to it. You no longer have to deal with it because you're producing your own power, right? And then, like, you only travel like 450 miles to work every day. Doesn't it make more sense that if you're already making your own power on your house to prevent the terrorist attack, that you also produce your own fuel, not as your not as your permanent vehicle? Get you a gas one too, but have your electric just for your commute, so that way you ain't got to deal with the gas company affecting your job.
Your selling points aren't all the CO2 that they're off-putting in the environment.
No, that's not the selling point, because if you look at it, the second most abundant source of liquid on the planet's oil. The first is the ocean, the water. So you have two of the biggest abundance of liquids, and both of them produce a gas for you to produce fuel down the road.
Well, do either
you get hydrogen?
Oh, sorry. Huh? I was just going to say, do either of you know of data centers in your district? So that's definitely, like you said, Michael, is a cross-partisan, and I know young people really care about that. So yeah, Rustin and Adam, what's the situation where you live with the data centers?
Yes,
they're fighting it.
Sorry, go ahead, Rustin.
They're fighting it hard. People don't want them. Everybody knows what they're there for. Everybody knows the truth of what they're there for. Everybody already has a good education on, and I wouldn't say everybody, I'd say a good majority of people have a good education on the consequences of putting them in, especially if everything over social media. It's not been a quiet issue. It's been a very talked about issue, well-publicized issue. In my opinion, for every data center we put in, you're taking away a job. And yes, they can replace it with certain jobs, but it's going to be very few and highly skilled. And you're talking about the general public. So if we're going to talk about the general public and talk about the education system being a failure like it is, then you're going to require lower education jobs, and you're taking those away.
Every large-scale data center, once it's up and running, employs about 50 people. A lot of those people are skilled tech workers that are not from the local areas, these rural areas that a lot of them are going in on. The only jobs that are created is in the initial construction process. Once they're there, about 50 jobs. A vast majority of those are tech workers, highly educated, coming in from not from where you're from, not your county, and coming in and working there. And then you got the pollution, the noise, your electric costs and stuff going up, and then the totalitarian government takeover, essentially.
Yeah. Adam.
Another thought is recycling. What are they going to do when they update the data center? People don't realize the reason why gold and heavy metals are so important right now is because if they're going to build all these data centers, guess what those computer boards need?
Yeah, we have. It's funny you bring it up. We had one going right in my hometown of Andover Township, right here in my district.
Oh, shit.
There was a huge community response. As soon as we had heard about it, it was going to be like a crypto crypto mining like infrastructure put in right here in our rural Andover Township. And there was a huge outcry in terms of protests outside the municipal building right here in our main park, and huge crowds of people showed up for the town council meeting for Andover Township, so much so that there was like altercations with police and altercations with security. And then eventually, a few days later, they came out and said that they're canceling the plans and they're not putting it in Andover Township. But overall in New Jersey, I know that there's plans of about 80 new data centers to go in over the next 5 to 10 years. So I think it's like a Band-Aid on a bigger issue. Unfortunately, things are not being done in a sustainable way. Our congressman here, Gottheimer, talks about a lot that we're in a cold war of AI development against China, and we need to do the development as soon and as quickly as possible with as limited guardrails as possible in order to stay up with China and their development of infrastructure. But I think that's really the Microsoft and Palantir donors that are kind of speaking to Josh. And, there's a lot of other countries that have been able to build out this AI more sustainably. Even like China has been able to make data centers that are in areas that aren't as affecting negatively to marginal and local communities. They've been making data centers that are powered 100% from solar panels that are built with the data center. So there's different ways that we could be doing it more sustainably, so it's not impacting marginalized communities as negatively. But right now it's being done completely unsustainably.
Has anyone heard anything more about the one in Utah that I think it was like 40,000 acres or something insane like that? But you saw the big crowds. Did you all see that? You must have seen that, Michael. But so people were protesting, but these three, I guess it was three commissioners, they just voted for it. They're going to do it anyway. So I don't know what anybody know the latest on that one? I don't.
Like the largest data center, and is that the one with the Shark Tank guy in it?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, with Kevin O'Leary. It's something like 15 square miles. Do I got that right? It is something insane.
I don't know. Yeah, it's
and then he gave a really out of touch interview from his car, and he's like, I studied environmental. This is the Shark Tank billionaire that's funding. And he's like, I studied environmental studies in college. Like, trust me, I know about. I'm very concerned about the environmental impacts. And then he said, most of the people protesting it are out of state protesters. You can't make this up. Can't make this up.
Well, also it's for the surveillance state. So, which brings me to isn't that my third one on here? Yes. Okay. So we're, the data centers, it's the environmental issues and the surveillance state all wrapped into one, because we know that's what they're using it for. Anybody want to take, Rustin, you want to take that one? I figured you would.
Yeah. So you want to talk about a surveillance state, right? So right now you have banks asking for a credit score to open up a savings account. I went and tried to open up one for my kid, and they wanted me to get my go through a credit score check to get a savings account open up. You have digital cameras on the roads tracking everything you're doing. You have a credit score. And you just go down the list of everything. The cars being shut off now when at their will and discretion. Mm-hmm. So you start seeing what's being built up to where they're doing the surveillance on the phones, the surveillance on your TVs, because Walmart bought Vizio. A lot of people don't know that. Walmart bought Vizio, so they'll have a lot of control over that. There's a lot of people buying. I want little hat people, because I'm not against Jews, I'm against the Zionists, but there's a lot of little hat people buying up a lot of the media and a lot of stuff like that. And I'm watching that go on with a lot of the web pages. And they openly admit that they're going to control the media and how you talk and what you do and what you say. And they also own run one of the biggest surveillance systems in the world, next to Palantir, that's getting ready to come in and surveil us. So the question is, if America wants to move forward and we're not going towards a social credit score system, what are all these steps in front of us right now?
Yeah. Adam, do you want
to? Yeah, it's really no joke how big tech wants to colonize the everyday American, and how we really are in a system of oligarchy these days with some of these big tech
Put a toll
bosses
booth on
are
us
like,
for everyday interactions. For our entire life, they want to put a toll booth in front of. I think that's the best way I've ever heard it described.
yep, they just want to commodify every last bit of our data and our attention. So it's super alarming. Like we mentioned with FISA, the warrantless surveillance has really gone above and beyond in this country, unfortunately. So we have to do everything we can to call it out, unseat, corrupt congressmen and congressmen that are bending the knee to, I've mentioned a few times like Palantir and companies that are mining our data, our personal data. So it's super severe, and everyone should be alarmed about what's happening.
Yeah, and there's nothing anti-Semitic about saying that it is just a fact. Gray Zone's been great at covering this early on, but a lot of our tech industry has been, there's no other way to put it, but infiltrated by people that worked in Unit 8200 in Israel. And I was going to see if I could find my great clip on that one. I'll post it later, but speaking of the cars, I mean, that's something. There was a conference, I think it was like 2018. Vice News did a show on it, and they showed how they were hacking cars, 10 years ago, right? And showing how someone could just remotely, shut the car off, open and close the windows and everything. So, and we also know that was in Vault 7 too, in WikiLeaks Vault 7, CIA tools.
I tell you what, Kelly, if somebody wanted to start buying old cars right now and then just release them when this surveillance state comes down on us and people want it, I think there's going to be a rush for these old cars. The price is going to go up, and some people that have been sitting on these old Hondas, Toyotas, Buicks, I mean, you name it, Fords, like, they're going to be a hot commodity. I tell you what.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Seriously, your junkers right now will be sought after.
Rustin?
Well, and you think about it, right? You look up Operation Paperclip and all the, like, from Nazi Germany, right? From back then. The reason I like Nazi Germany, because a lot of our history today, the B-2 bomber came back from Nazi Germany. The fact that we bombed Braun going to space. The first, if you look up YouTube, if you Google it, they'll say Germany never built a space shuttle, and they didn't. But they designed their first space shuttle and had it all ready to be built. They were going to go to space. They were going to be first. Your uranium for your nuclear weapons was designed by Germany first, was enriched by them first. Einstein escaped Germany to come to America and sided with Americans, kept the technology going, right? But he was the key, right? And a lot of people don't get that. I bring it up because if you just look at von Braun is part of NASA. And if you go back to Germany and look what he did before they turned him into NASA, you would go, who the hell put that good dude in charge of NASA? Because
they left that out of the history books.
During World War II?
No, I'm not sure. You're on mute, Rustin. But no, I'm not sure what he did during World War II. I know it was bad. I know he's a part of I know he was a part of the regime, and I know that a lot of these people were brought over here, and they were just kind of put underneath the covers. Like, all right, let's use these people because we also hate communists too.
Well, they even admitted that Hitler never died during World War II. He died in Argentina.
I personally,
it came out. Venezuelan president came out and said that.
Yeah, I personally think that there's a lot of question marks about Hitler committing suicide. They never have the body, or and all those other guys left, and so that's another topic for another day. But for the after show.
But my point being is, if you go back to World War II, your jet engines, your Autobahn, a lot of your political philosophies and tactics all started back then, because that's when Operation Paperclip happened, and they brought all those people. Now, what we do is we talk about Operation Paperclip, we talk about the scientists and what they did, but we never go after the lineage. And look where their family are in today's society. Nobody ever looks at that. And then you'll understand your politics a little bit more if you do.
It is interesting that I think so many things that were considered just really taboo and crazy conspiracy theory to talk about, it's like, what's the saying now? Wait a month or whatever. And then, conspiracy theory is the truth. And I think there's a lot of power in just people actually saying it, I mean, I used to self-censor on a few things too that I was kind of learning about through working on a show that had a lot of whistleblowers and and the work, through learning about WikiLeaks and Vault 7, and it maybe sounded crazy to make certain claims, but you start to learn now a lot of that stuff is actually true. But okay, let's go to, go ahead.
I'm into nanotechnology. Try talking to people about smart dust.
Yeah, I remember that talking to you about that.
Yeah, do you want to hear conspiracy theorists? They've been working on this since the 90s, but look up smart dust and you'll wonder why we have every war after that.
Okay.
Nanotechnology. If it's possible,
technology
there.
is
That's the
messed
future
up.
that we're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, government transparency. This one kind of goes along with this as well, because I think we all have a right to know what's going on. And one of the things that I have on the pledge, which I need to focus on more, but it's just that we need more transparency with the NGOs. And I typically only hear people on the right talk about this, but they've got things orchestrated where it's like, okay, currently with our election system, you have DHS and, CISA, CISA, but then they have this nonprofit, organization, CIS, that was putting out these, it's called an Albert sensor, and it's a network intrusion detection device. But that is a private company, so you can't FOIA it and find out all the information. And so this is a huge problem, because I think it's kind of on a lot of different things in life. Like, we can't, if they're using a private company or a so-called nonprofit that makes millions of dollars as sort of a proxy, right, to do their dirty work. This is a big problem. I don't know what we do about it, but Adam's disappeared. I don't know if he wants, there you are. Do you want to speak on that, about transparency? What you feel about that?
Yeah,
Do you think that's true?
I think the government can be transparent in a lot of different ways. Beyond surveillance, I'm for Australia does break down to every tax-paying Australian. It kind of gives a pie chart, and you can kind of make some discretionary decisions on where your tax money is actually going on a federal level. So I think kind of transparency on that end, in terms of restoring people's faith in their taxation without representation, even, and all the way back to basics of democracy and where this country was founded, and why we kind of broke away from Britain and the bourgeoisie that was kind of underway at 1700s at that time. So I think we can be more transparent in many ways in terms of where our federal funds are actually going. I think a lot of people have lost faith in the tax code, as businesses and oligarchs pay nothing in taxes, while a lot of middle class families, pay upwards of 30 to 40%, especially combined with all the incidental costs that come with, especially in a state like New Jersey, in terms of property taxes, easy pass, congestion tolling, on top of all these other taxes that come once a year. So I think more transparency in terms of where that money is going, even for tolling and different fees that we pay to the state and federal level. I think people are really frustrated when there's still potholes on the road and infrastructure is still crumbling, and they're paying such a large percentage of their income and their revenue. So I think it could be more transparent in that sense, for sure, to kind of restore people's faith in where all this money is going, and that it's not going. Hopefully, it isn't going any longer once we get a new administration and new Congress, all going overseas to create all of this havoc. Hopefully, it's not going to Argentina to bail them out, bail out a far right government, and all these other ways where we've kind of shipped our money overseas. But yeah, hopefully we can have more dialogue and representation with the everyday person, and they can have a little bit more say and a little bit more oversight of where their federal funds are going.
Do you have any faith in the Democrats at all to make that happen if they win the election in 28, 26?
Yeah, I mean, for president, I'm hopeful that AOC can be president. I'm hopeful that they put her up as the nominee. And I have faith in really her and her only. But Democrats, the Democratic Party as well, has contributed to kind of the corruption and the tilt towards big business and oligarchy that we kind of find ourselves in 2026. But Republicans alone couldn't have brought us to this woeful point. So Democrats have played their role in a lot of ways, and I think the only way through is going to be able to get a voting block of independents or third party people to kind of, you know, in some of these elections, send home both the Republican and the Democratic Party home losers. And they start to realize that they're falling out of power even just a little bit. And I think that will be the motivation they need to kind of actually get better politics. But until then, they know that they're going to return to power in the next 2 or 4 or 8 years at maximum, as the other party, majority party, will fall out of power in some other way, or you know, fall out of, you know, the public favorability in another way. So right now, the system we have is truly uncompetitive, and you know, I'm hoping that a third force will kind of, you know, force everyone to have that much better politics and be that much more populist and for the people.
Okay, well, we are at the top of the hour, so why don't we'll just, why don't you say like where people can find you, what they can do to support you, or anything else that we haven't touched on that you really wanted to talk about?
Yeah, absolutely. People can check me out on Instagram. My page is Rep Rueda, REPRUEDA. Just like everyone has, you know, like the rep page already in Congress. And you could also check out my new political party, Green Party 2.0. Grateful to have a whole bunch of followers on both of those pages. So we're really trying to think outside the box in terms of a new political party in this country, political party of independence, but just really trying to inspire young professionals and working class community leaders from across the country to consider running for Congress as independents and outside of the two-party system.
Great. Okay, Rustin.
There we go. I am Rustin Provance, running for 3rd Congressional District. I'm running on the basis of reinstating the Constitution. And we talked about accountability. And one thing I always like to point out about accountability is that the government will never teach you how to defend yourself against it. Never. And the education system, it will never do that. So, like, things I like to teach are what a 1983 civil suit is. And that's a simple $400 lawsuit against your politician. Being printed offline. US 18 subsection 241, 242, great laws to look up if you're looking up laws. They're federal laws. I think
I saw
that
your
people
Facebook
need
post about that. Do you want to explain that more real quick if it's not?
So yeah. So in the United States, they don't teach you in school anything but with the bare minimum. Right? You're reading, you're writing, but they want to expand it into the other things. The one thing the government will never teach you is how to defend yourself, which is law. And I have a criminal background, and I'm one of the few candidates running that's a convicted felon. So, hi. All right. So I have done prison time. I have done everything like that. So I've been inside with the system as well as seen the other side of the system and studied both to understand how they both work and function, from the person that used to teach recidivism and in the class in school to keep people out of prison. You learn things in the system altogether, how things work. And a lot of the system is based off punishment and commercial law, right? Like I tell people, if you can pay to do it, then it was never against the law to start with. If I can just pay a fine, like you're speeding down the road, if I could just pay you the fine to pay you a fine, did I really break the law? You know what I mean? So if you look at it from a perspective, you have to learn to fight back in court, which is something that the government will never teach you to do. So there's little things called like a 1983 civil suit. And what it is a public lawsuit or a civil lawsuit against your government official, your law enforcement, your judge, any public official on the state level. You can file a lawsuit against them. It costs about between $250 to $400 between each state. You can look it online. It's called 1983 civil suit. You can look it online. It's self-explanatory. Keep it simple. I'm not an attorney, so don't take my words as advice. Do your own research. But it allows you to go and basically go after your public officials and law enforcement for the wrongings they do against you, which is something a lot of people bitch about. You're against the blue and you're against this. No, I'm not against the blue. I'm against correction. If the law enforcement's doing something outside the boundaries of their duties, then yes, we should, as public, should be able to defend ourselves against them. And they don't teach us that.
Have you seen anybody use that?
Right?
Is there any what are some? Has anyone been able to like sue their government or their politicians over like wars or any of their?
They actually have a federal version too. They have a federal version. You can look it up. Google and AI will tell you what the federal version is. But yeah, it just what is the federal version of a 1983, and it'll pop right up.
All right.
That's very interesting because I always thought every, government agency, government office, they're immune from being like.
No, they're not.
Okay.
They're not. Just as long as you stick to facts. Judges hate assumptions. Assumptions are like assholes. Everybody's got one. So as long as you stick to facts and you have your facts non-disputable, because as long as they're facts, they're non-disputable, right? Because it's a fact. Judges like that because it's clear and black and white. I have a one thing I teach my friends, like with this process, is a lot of them, and I don't advocate for kids not to or parents not to take care of their kids. Start out with that, but there's good dads out there that are paying child support to shitty mothers, right? So as a result of it, I've taught them how to go against the family courts outside of the family courts. You don't attack the judge in the family courts. You attack because the family courts is not recognized by the Supreme Court. People don't realize that. So when you complain about the family courts, it's all volunteer. It's all voluntary. You have to volunteer to do it all. So the family courts don't really want to deal with it, or the Supreme Court doesn't want to deal with family courts. So the way to get around the family courts is when they go into your account and you haven't agreed to all this, and they've made all these state threats and laws and threaten you if you don't agree to do this. The second they start taking money out of your account, you sue the state for failure of due process, because it takes a jury of 12 to take money from your account, unless it's crime or there's damage to property.
Well, you know what?
So
I'm glad you. I mean, we probably need another hour to get into all this, but it is another thing, another item on the pledge, and we had a good conversation with Karen, former Judge Karen Ortiz, about it. Is that the legal? Oops, wrong one. Legal system is really kind of just this wall of power that you typically have to have a lot of money to even hire a lawyer to fight for your rights. So that's something I think we definitely need more education about. So that's really important. But okay, so Rustin, we can keep going after. I'm just thinking maybe Adam. Oh, I think he dropped off actually. Okay. So, do you want to just tell people where they can find you or how to support you?
I'm on Facebook. I'm on TikTok. I try to get, honestly, I've ran through, this is my third time running, and I think I'd probably make it a public announcement now. This is my last time running. After this, I will be a campaign manager for somebody, but I will not run again. The reason being is the stressfulness of running is just, it takes a toll on your family. You don't have no social life. You have no family life. My wife hates politics as a result of it. She hates it, and I don't blame her. She was a Democrat that tried to go Republican. The Republicans dragged her through the dirt. I mean, literally called her to meetings and then wouldn't let her speak after they told her they would. I mean, they treated her like total crap. And then just to see how the whole system of politics works, people keep saying they want change and they want people to run and they want people to do it. But the second somebody that they like stands up and runs and disagrees with one thing that they don't like, that person should have never started running. And now they're the enemy and they're going back to the left and right. And it's like, okay, but you want change. Well, how are you going to get change? Aren't you guys repeating, doing the same thing over and over again is insanity, but yet you're doing the same thing over and over again? Isn't that the oxymoron of your argument?
Right.
So if you want change, it doesn't take a third party to get transparency, because they wouldn't be part of the corruption. It'd take a third party to get things done that actually show the people what's really going on.
Well, that's why I created this, and I think these are, well, it's not what I think. It's all backed by polling. These issues really are across party lines, and I think there's a lot of effort to pull people away from these topics that they all find agreement on and keep them focused on. And you talked about the psychological warfare. I think that's kind of part of it, is the media wants to keep everybody focused on all the things they don't agree on. So, okay, well, wait, Adam's already dropped off, but we're going to end here. And I just want to thank everybody for coming. And Michael, I just heard from Phil, he had it as 8 p.m. Central. So I guess we'll do it next time. So, okay. Thank you, everyone.